I'm going to start this video with something real. Most men do not actually fear intimacy. What they really fear is rejection. They fear that moment when they finally make a move and the woman steps back, becomes distant, or says something that suddenly kills the mood. That moment hurts more than anything. But what if I told you there is a way to ask a woman for intimacy without sounding needy, without creating pressure, and without facing that painful rejection? A way that uses psychology, not manipulation, not control, but a deep understanding of how women emotionally decide when they feel ready and who they feel safe being ready with. And that is exactly what you are about to learn today. Before we go deeper, let me share something most people never realize. Women do not reject intimacy itself. Women reject the feeling connected to it. If the emotional experience feels wrong, uncomfortable, or unsafe, the answer is no. If it feels right, calm, and natural, the answer comes on its own. And the method you are about to learn makes it feel right without forcing anything. Now let's go deeper. Every man who gets rejected for intimacy usually makes one of a few common mistakes. He asks too directly, he asks too early, he asks with nervous energy, or he asks without building any emotional connection first. And here's the truth most men never hear. Women do not decide intimacy logically. They decide emotionally. The moment she feels safe, understood, desired but not pushed, emotionally connected, the door opens naturally. So today I am going to show you the psychology-based way to move toward intimacy without sounding desperate, without making her uncomfortable, and without risking that cold and painful rejection. But before we get into the techniques, there is something very important about female psychology that most men completely miss. Women experience attraction differently than men. For most men, attraction is instant and visual. You see someone attractive and your body reacts right away. But for women, attraction is layered. It builds slowly. It grows through context, emotion, comfort, and anticipation. This is why a woman can meet a man, feel nothing at first, and then weeks later feel deeply drawn to him. She was not playing games. Her attraction simply needed time to grow through emotional moments. When you understand this, everything about how you approach intimacy changes. Because when you know her desire builds through emotional layers, you stop rushing, you stop pushing, you stop trying to force moments. Instead, you begin creating the conditions where her desire rises on its own. Now, let's talk about the most powerful principle of all. You never ask directly. Let me say that again because this alone can change everything for you. You never ask a woman for intimacy in a direct way. Women do not respond well to direct requests. They respond to emotional invitations. There is a huge difference. Asking directly creates pressure. Pressure creates resistance. Resistance leads to rejection. But when you invite her emotionally in a subtle way, you change the whole dynamic. She does not feel like you are pushing her. It feels natural. It feels smooth. It feels like she is choosing it herself. And when a woman feels like the choice is hers, she almost never rejects it. Think about the last time someone tried to sell you something in a very aggressive way. The moment you felt pressured, what did you do? You pulled back. Even if you liked the product, the pressure ruined the feeling. The same thing happens with intimacy. When a man asks straight out, "Do you want to come back to my place?" or "Should we take this further?" he turns the moment into a transaction. He forces her to think instead of feel. And the conscious mind is where fear lives. Doubt lives there. Worry lives there. But when you create an emotional invitation instead of a direct question, you speak to her subconscious. You create a feeling, not a decision. And feelings do not get rejected the same way questions do. Here is the psychology behind this. You give her space to walk into intimacy emotionally. You do not drag her there. You do not push her there. You simply make the path feel safe and natural. How do you do that? You create an environment where she feels comfortable with you, connected to you, and curious about you. Women say yes to intimacy when three emotional switches turn on: safety, trust, and anticipation. If even one of these is missing, she holds back. But here is the good news. You do not need to beg for these. You create them through how you show up. Safety does not mean she has known you for years. Safety means she feels you will not judge her, rush her, or make her feel bad for her choices. Safety comes from your emotional control. When you are calm, steady, and not reactive, she feels safe around you. Trust grows when your words match your actions. When you say you are not in a hurry and then you actually prove it by not rushing. When you respect her limits without making her feel guilty for having them. Trust is what allows her to relax. Anticipation is the magic part. It is the buildup of tension that makes intimacy feel exciting instead of awkward. Anticipation comes from patience, from suggestion, from the space between what is happening now and what could happen later. Most men focus only on trying to look attractive. They try to be funny, confident, impressive, and those things are good. But they forget that a woman must feel safe, trusting, and curious before attraction turns into intimacy. That is where most men fail. Now let's talk about the second powerful method, the soft withdrawal effect. This is one of the smoothest psychological techniques you will ever use. Instead of moving closer to intimacy, you gently move back just a little, not in a cold way, not in a rude way, just in a way that shows you are comfortable with closeness, but not dependent on it. This does two things. First, it removes pressure instantly. Second, it creates emotional space where she starts moving towards you. Women feel comfortable with the man who does not rush intimacy, not because he does not want it, but because he respects timing. When she feels you are not trying to take something from her, she begins to offer it on her own. And that is when rejection disappears because now it is her choice. Let me show you how this works in real life. You are sitting with a woman. There is chemistry. The conversation feels easy. Most men at this moment would try to move closer, touch her more, maybe go in for a kiss. But often she pulls back slightly, not because she is not interested, but because it felt rushed. Now imagine this instead. You feel the moment building, and instead of leaning in, you lean back just a little. You pause, you take a breath, you look away for a second. You create a small space. What happens in her mind? The pressure is gone. And when the pressure leaves, she becomes aware of her own desire. She thinks, why did he pull back? Does he not want this? And without even noticing it, she leans in. She closes the space. She touches you first. That is the soft withdrawal effect. You are not rejecting her. You are not playing games. You are simply showing that you are comfortable letting things unfold naturally. That comfort makes her feel safe enough to move closer. Now, here comes the next method, and this one builds anticipation, the strongest trigger of desire in female psychology. This is the implanted thought shift. You do not ask for intimacy. You gently place an idea in her mind that leads her there naturally. You do this with soft, emotional statements like, I really enjoy how calm I feel around you, or it feels easy being close to you, or I like the way our energy matches. These words do not ask for anything. They do not demand anything, but they plant a seed. Women respond to feelings, not commands. When you give her a feeling of comfort and connection, her mind begins to imagine what more of that could feel like. Now, let me take this even deeper. Many men believe that confidence means pushing forward, but real confidence is being okay with any outcome. When you show that you are fine, whether intimacy happens now or later, she feels no pressure. And when she feels no pressure, she feels free. And when she feels free, she feels safe. And when she feels safe, desire grows. This is the emotional chain most men never see. They think they need to convince. They think they need to impress. They think they need to perform. But the truth is, you only need to create the right emotional space. Here is another powerful truth. Women are extremely sensitive to energy. They feel when a man is trying to get something. They also feel when a man is simply enjoying the moment. When your focus is on connection instead of outcome, your energy changes. Your voice becomes calmer, your movements become slower, your presence becomes stronger, and that alone can change everything. Now, think about this. Have you ever been around someone who made you feel relaxed just by being there? Someone who did not rush you, someone who did not demand anything, someone who made you feel comfortable being yourself. That is how you need to make her feel. When you become that man, intimacy becomes a natural result instead of a stressful goal. Let me say something important here. None of this is about tricking women. None of this is about control. None of this is about manipulation. This is about understanding emotional timing. It is about respecting how women feel desire. When you move with her emotions instead of against them, everything becomes easier. Now, let us talk about the biggest mistake men make when they feel attraction. They rush because they are afraid of losing the moment. They think if they do not act now, they will miss their chance. But the truth is, rushing is what destroys most chances. Patience creates space. Space creates comfort. Comfort creates desire. Desire creates intimacy. Here is something you should always remember. A woman will never regret intimacy that felt safe and natural, but she will always remember intimacy that felt forced or rushed. So your goal is never to move fast. Your goal is to move right. Another powerful technique is simply slowing down your pace. Speak a little slower, move a little slower, look at her when she talks, listen fully. These small things tell her subconsciously that you are not in a hurry. And when you are not in a hurry, she feels no need to protect herself. Now, let me give you one more shift that changes everything. Stop seeing intimacy as something you take. Start seeing it as something that happens between two people when the moment feels right. This mindset alone changes your energy completely. You stop chasing, you stop proving, you start attracting naturally. When a woman feels that you are okay with waiting, she relaxes. When she relaxes, she opens. When she opens, intimacy flows. It becomes a shared experience, not a test you are trying to pass. So remember this. Do not ask directly, invite emotionally, do not rush, create space, do not pressure, build comfort, do not chase, stay grounded. When you master these simple psychological shifts, rejection becomes rare, not because you are perfect, but because you understand how women truly feel desire. And when you understand that, intimacy stops being something you fear and becomes something that happens naturally, calmly, and confidently. When she starts to feel something around you, intimacy becomes her curiosity, not your request. And that difference truly changes everything. Here is what is really happening on a psychological level when you use these kinds of statements. You are helping her become aware of feelings she is already having but has not yet put into clear words. When you say, I really like the way our energy feels together, you are not planting a new idea in her mind. You are simply giving language to something she has already been sensing. And when you reflect her own feelings back to her like this, she thinks, yes, that is exactly it. That is what I am feeling too. This creates alignment, and alignment is powerful. Alignment pulls people together in a natural way. There is also a principle in psychology called priming. When you introduce certain words or ideas into a conversation, those ideas become easier for the other person to notice and focus on. So when you casually mention words like energy, closeness, connection, or natural, these words begin to shape how she understands the moment. She is not being controlled. She is being guided toward awareness of what is already happening between you. And that awareness is what turns a nice talk into a deeper and more intimate connection. Now, the next part is very important, maybe the most important part in this entire message, because many men get this wrong again and again. The fourth trick is simple but powerful. You must let her feel safe in her feminine energy. Intimacy for women is connected to emotions, but more specifically to feminine emotions: softness, trust, warmth, openness, vulnerability. A woman cannot fully enter her feminine energy if a man stays nervous, tense, overly sexual, or overly aggressive. Your role is very simple. You hold masculine calm. Not forceful, not needy, not overly sexual. Just calm, steady, and grounded. When a woman feels this calmness in a man, something beautiful happens. Her guard slowly comes down. And when her guard comes down, saying yes becomes easy and natural, not pressured, not forced, just natural. Let me explain what masculine calm really looks like, because many people misunderstand this idea. Masculine calm is not cold silence. It is not being distant or emotionless. Masculine calm is the energy of a man who is fully present, comfortable in his own body, and not stressed about results. It is the difference between a man who keeps searching for approval, asking, is this okay? Do you like this? Should I do more? And a man who simply allows the moment to unfold on its own. Women are very sensitive to energy. They can feel when a man is nervous, when he is trying too hard, or when he desperately wants validation. All of these energies push her into her masculine side, into her thinking, analyzing, and protecting mode. But when you stay calm, when you are grounded and relaxed, she softens. She relaxes too. She naturally enters her feminine side, and that is where desire lives. This is also why women are often attracted to men who seem experienced. Not because experience itself is attractive, but because experienced men are usually calm. They are not rushing or panicking about what to do next. They are not overthinking every move. They are simply flowing with the moment. Now, let us talk about the moment where most men mess everything up, the moment when they are about to ask. Here is the psychology that can save you from rejection. The fifth trick is this: never ask for a yes, ask for a feeling. When you ask for a yes, you open the door to a no. But when you ask about